Karen's obsession had now escalated into outright audacity. One afternoon, I received word that the HOA had dispatched what they claimed were officers, armed and authorized, to invade my waterfront building. The message was delivered with all the drama Karen could muster, insisting that they had a right to inspect, enforce, and assert control over my property. On the surface, it seemed like a serious threat, but I knew better. What she did not anticipate was that I had already coordinated with federal authorities who were convening within the property for a separate matter. My waterfront building had long-standing permits for private gatherings with law enforcement officials, and these meetings included high-ranking federal agents. Karen's officers, phony as they were completely unaware of the real authority present inside. As the so-called enforcers arrived, I greeted them calmly at the entrance. "I understand you have a message from the HOA," I said, maintaining an even tone. "Before we proceed, I need to make you aware that federal agents are present, conducting official business, and any interference could be considered obstruction." The FO officers froze, unsure of how to respond. Karen herself was on site, pacing and waving her arms, attempting to assert authority. She called emergency services, claiming immediate danger, but her theatrics only added to the confusion. Within moments, federal agents emerged from the building, clearly in command and visibly unimpressed with Karen's display. The phony HOA officers were politely but firmly instructed to leave the premises. Karen, realizing she had walked into a situation far beyond her comprehension, began to sputter excuses. Her arrogance had finally met the immovable force of authority and preparation. The federal agents did not need to take drastic action. Their presence alone made her position untenable. I calmly documented the entire encounter, noting every action, every statement, and every attempt by the HOA to interfere. This record would be invaluable should she escalate her harassment in the future. Karen, of course, attempted to justify her actions. She claimed she was merely ensuring community compliance, but her words fell flat against the clear legal boundaries and authority of the federal agents. I observed quietly as her frustration grew. Her familiar smug confidence was replaced by flustered desperation. Every demand she made was countered by legal fact, proper authority, or documentation. Once the phony officers departed, I addressed Karen directly. "You may call all the emergency services you wish," I said, "but you do not have the authority to enter private property or interfere with federal operations. Your actions today are a matter of record." She glared but could say nothing, the reality of her position finally sinking in. The incident reinforced a critical principle I had learned in dealing with Karen and the HOA. Preparation and knowledge are more powerful than intimidation and theatrics. Her reliance on coercion, emergency calls, and performative authority was predictable, and each time, I had already set the countermeasures in place. By the evening, the waterfront building was secure. The federal agents had concluded their meeting, and Karen had retreated, humiliated yet again. The neighborhood, once oblivious to her overreach, began to quietly recognize the limits of her authority. My careful documentation, legal awareness, and strategic positioning had neutralized a potentially dangerous intrusion without confrontation or force. As I walked along the water's edge, I realized that Karen's escalating attempts to assert control were not just futile. They were predictable and therefore manageable. Each emergency call, each attempt to intimidate, and each HOA overreach was now part of a broader pattern I could anticipate and counter. Karen might continue to try, but she was no longer a threat. Her actions had become a predictable puzzle, and I had already mastered the solution.